Hey guys, it's Valentine. I'm here with Desheay, who is actually a stranger to me for the most part. I just met him 6 days ago, something like that.
Something like that.
We've never hung out or anything like that. We've known each other for less than a week, but when I met him, he was so friendly, not just to me, but literally to everybody. And so it was automatic that I wanted to interpret his mindsets and understand how is he so friendly, how is he so out there. And I mean, he was talking to everybody. And before I left that day that I met him, he gave me like a huge hug, which nobody has ever done.
Really?
Is like, not that I've never gotten a hug, I've gotten nice hugs, but a stranger has never done, where they've been like, hey, bring it in. And he made me take 2 deep breaths, which is really hard because of my allergies, but he made me take 2 deep breaths with him. And I saw you do it to somebody else too, right beforehand. And so I was just like, wow, that is so interesting that you do that to strangers, right? Because I
One
can
of my
do
favorite
that.
things to do.
I can do that. I can do that with my family. I can do that with my friends. But you were so open to do it to strangers, and I think that just epitomizes how you are an epitome of friendliness. And I really want to pick your brain on that. So, but go ahead and introduce yourself the way you would want people to know you as.
Hello, my name's Desheay, and you know, I used to characterize myself as a professional parkour athlete, a gym co-founder, but now I've broken out of that identity bubble, and honestly, I'm a human being of eclectic tastes and interests. There's a lot of things that I could define myself as, but like you said, I'm a friendly human being.
For sure, eclectic. What does that mean?
Eclectic, like many interests,
Okay,
many tastes.
gotcha. You're okay. Yeah, for sure. Love the hat, by the way. And when I first
Thank you.
the way that we like started interacting. The way we started interacting was because he was wearing this hat that was like super long, right? And it said "fuck hosers" on it, and I was just like, "Nice hat, dude." And that's how we started talking. And I was just like, hey, "What'd you say? Do you remember what you said to that?"
I do not.
You said this is my don't
Oh,
take life too seriously
This
hat.
is my don't take life too seriously hat. Yeah, you know what? That hat makes me laugh so
It
much.
makes everyone laugh, I'm sure.
Dude, I cannot go to a establishment wearing that hat and not crack the fuck up.
Yeah.
Man. It is so funny because it's so ridiculous. It's like all the way out here, like I shake my head and it bobs. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite hats.
Love it. No,
Yeah.
but I live by that too. Is like, don't take life too seriously, because there are times where you have to be serious and you have to be professional, whatever it is. But outside of that, like when you're being you don't take life too seriously. And
Yeah.
and I love that you had that, and I resonated with that right away. And that's where I like felt connected with you right away. So I want to ask you how you became you. So first off, tell me a little bit about your past. Kind of like where are you from?
Where am I from?
Arizona. I mean, we're in Arizona now, but are you from Arizona originally?
I'm from the far reaches of the universe
Oh, this
in
guy.
San Jose.
San Jose.
Yeah, San Jose.
That's
Honestly,
in
not
Texas, right?
no San Jose, California.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm terrible with geography.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I San Jose is not the most glamorous place. It
Okay.
used to be. It used to be called the Valley of Heart's Delight.
Okay.
And it's changed a lot. I've never seen it in its heyday, but when people ask me, especially here, especially with the stigma around Californians going
Right,
everywhere.
Arizonans are not a big fans of California.
Arizona, nobody's a big fan of Californians.
Not even Californians
Not even Californians really.
are a fan of California. Aw.
But I feel like they get a bad rap because we're perceived as people who just like go to other states and buy up like 4 homes and rent them out to Airbnb. Trust me, I'm not that guy.
Gotcha.
But I feel more at home in Arizona than I've felt, honestly, almost anywhere else. Definitely, I feel more at home here than I ever felt in California, and
Gotcha.
I feel very happy here.
For sure.
In my 2 months being here, 3 months, I moved here into the beginning of October.
I was about to ask, when did you come to Arizona? So you've been in California your whole life, and you're just recent to Arizona.
Very
Gotcha.
recent Arizona.
Well, it's as nice as you are interpreting it as. It really, I love Arizona.
I love Arizona. This, you know, this is a place where I feel free.
Huh.
This is a place where the pace of life is just quick enough to be exciting, but just slow enough to be able to have interactions like these on a consistent basis.
But speaking on that, I wish more people had interactions like these on a consistent basis because you, like I said, you epitomize friendliness. So I want to know, have you always been like this? Like, what kind of student were you in middle school? Like, what kind of person were you then?
Definitely not.
No? You haven't always been this outgoing?
I would say that I became this outgoing probably 2018.
2018.
Probably
such as 5 years ago, roughly?
Probably
okay.
somewhere around there. Because that's really the time where...
How old were you then? 22?
I am not... I'm working on my ability with numbers.
You're roughly in your early 20s, let's say.
I was in my early 20s.
Okay, because I just want to like really kind of picture it. So
that's when I started to embrace, you know, my social skills. That's when I got out there in the parkour community. That's when I started my travels with parkour, and got ingrained in the community. Because before that, I was not antisocial.
Okay.
But I wasn't social either. I definitely wasn't the person that you see now. And fair enough for 5 years ago, but in middle school, I was definitely going through a hard time. I was a loner. I was, let's put it this way. I was in the principal's office very often.
Okay.
I was flipping over tables and...
Oh, you were that kid.
Yeah, I had a lot of emotional distress, and it came out in really ugly ways. It came out in lashing out, calling the teachers names. Gotcha. Oh man, I would have been one of your nightmare students, man.
I haven't had one yet that I can't handle, but that would be interesting. So okay, so then you were kind of you had all these emotions. You were kind of more going through a lot inside that you didn't really care about the outside. Right, people just were not of interest then.
No.
Okay, so then what kind of changed for you in your early 20s that made you want to? Was this intentional? Were you like, I want to be more social, I want to get more out there, or did it just kind of happen? Because that's a huge shift. And were you like that? Sorry, I'm throwing like a million questions at you.
No, you're
good.
To
kind of clarify, were you like that up until your early 20s, and then something happened that you were like, I want to be more social and outgoing?
No, it was a gradient, definitely. Okay. So I would say from first grade until 8th grade was a really, we'll call it the crucible. It was a really hard time.
Okay.
My likelihood of being anything of substance character-wise was my likelihood of making it was very low.
Okay.
It was very low. And in high school, it started to be like I broke out of that hardship slowly from flipping over tables and being a problem to pulling back a bit more, not doing my work, but not being a problem,
Gotcha.
And then by sophomore year, I had my first girlfriend, and that really helped.
Gotcha. I was about to ask.
Yeah, that really helped, and I brought some romance into my life. And
in what ways would you say it helped?
Oh well, I mean, having another person there to like bounce feedback off of, and to like kind of ground you, and to have a partner is to try your best not to be a problem. right,
yeah, because if you are, you're gonna lose them. Yeah. So it's kind of like, and especially being in your sophomore year, being a youth, it's kind of like when you first start learning how to date. Yeah. And so it's like you start to learn that, like, oh, if I'm an asshole, like I am in class, like at that time, people don't want to stay with me.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like you had to be intentional about, like, I have to kind of work on myself if I want to keep this girl. Would you say it's kind of how it felt?
Unconsciously, yes.
Okay.
Through my sophomore and junior year, I would say during those 2 years, I spent a lot of time with my girlfriend at the time.
Okay.
And we were that couple, like in the hallway,
okay.
like, yeah.
Like a PDA couple?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And you know, how could I not be from this secluded fucking weirdo to, you know, oh shit, I have a girlfriend now.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. You know, fuck what everybody else thinks. I'm gonna be PDA. Definitely slowed down on that with my second girlfriend in my senior year.
Okay.
And at that point, I was more chilled out, you know, like I wasn't out there like giving people hugs and stuff, but you know, I was playing my guitar, I was doing parkour. Parkour really chilled me out because it was a positive outlet, and
for all those emotions
that
you still had at the kind of senior year of high school.
Oh yeah, and
okay.
these are emotions I've carried with me. Still, you know, they're still somewhere in here now.
Okay, I was about to ask, like, do you still have those? But you've kind of found like ways to.
I've found ways to ground myself.
Okay.
And express in healthy ways, so that way those emotions aren't defining characteristics of my perceived character.
Okay.
I would say senior year, I found parkour when I was 15.
Gotcha.
But in my senior year, I was a drifter. I drifted from group to group. My girlfriend and I at that time, we weren't PDA, and we didn't really hang out like at school. We spent a lot of time after school. Like I would see her, you know, in school.
Uh-huh.
It was chill. I'd say after graduating, I had like a year where I was just kind of floating.
Okay.
I got a job at the mall as one of those helicopter kiosk people.
Gotcha.
And the Army got to me.
So, okay.
Yeah, the recruiters came up to me and they're like, "Hey,
what you doing? Uh-huh.
You see that helicopter there? I've flown in one of those.
Oh.
You want to fly in one of those too?"
Right, that's how they get you want to fly for real.
Yeah, and I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Recruiters lie, and I never got to fly in a helicopter. It never happened.
Damn.
Which is unfortunate.
That is.
Yeah.
How long were you in the? It was the Army, Marines.
It was the Army.
Army. Okay.
Marines would have been my first choice, but the Army got to me first.
Gotcha. My brother's in the Marines.
The Marines, you know, you got the fancy gear and all that. At least dress uniform wise. But I would say I was in uniform for maybe 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And then the rest was IRR, inactive ready reserve, which pretty much means they don't pay me, I don't show, but if World War III happens, I might go.
Your first pick.
Yeah, not first pick, but I might go.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I feel like the Army helped build my character in some ways.
Okay.
But the combination of parkour, romance, and life experience, you know, through things like traveling the military, really shaped me.
Yeah.
The pivot point was psychedelics.
Okay.
Psychedelics.
Yeah, I've heard this from a lot of like podcasts and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm interested in what you have to say about this.
Psychedelics was the turning point.
Uh-huh.
And that's when I learned what empathy, like true empathy and compassion was, because I didn't have those growing up. Trauma and hardship had really pushed the ability to feel those things down.
Empathy and compassion. What is empathy?
The ability to feel what someone else is feeling,
okay,
and care about it. And compassion is, you know,
and care about it. Okay. Can you give me an example?
Yeah, you know, logically, in middle school, I know that my behavior caused a negative effect on the overall vibe, and
you were flipping tables. Yeah, I could imagine that.
On the feeling of the teachers. You know, I'd call them terrible names and everything, but I just didn't care.
Right.
But after psychedelics, I was really able to step into the perspective of another person, spiritually and emotionally, and care. And it was a huge turning point. Like the ability to have compassion and empathy just switched on. not like this, but in a very fast gradient.
That's so I've never tried psychedelics, but I hear this a lot from people where it's like they're life altering in a positive way. Like and there's so much like research on it too.
If you do it right with the right people,
I've
with the
heard that
right
too. You have to be in a
mindset.
good mood
Because if you
to
do
do
it
it.
at a party
Uh-huh.
or something, it could be a really hurtful experience.
But
Because
what is it about like doing it, like for you that you've actually experienced it? For people like myself who've never done that, what is it? What happens? Like, is it like you said? It's like, is it like a light switch or something? You're just like, or does like a I don't know fairy come out of nowhere and just like put empathy into your brain? Like, do you remember what happened? Could you describe as to how that empathy came to be, or just kind of something that is mysterious to you still, but you know it happened?
I would say that a life-altering psychedelic experience
Mm.
is hard to articulate.
Okay.
Words are clumsy to describe such a powerful experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I get that.
But I'm going to try my best.
Okay.
Um, I was able to step outside of myself and see my life from another perspective,
Okay.
and unveil the perceived truth of reality in ways that allowed me to process and feel things that I didn't have access to before. My traumas, my hardships, my actions, my choices.
Mm-hmm.
At first, it was just a magical, fantastic experience, and it was like, whee!
Right.
And I went and I experimented, and I tripped every day, pretty
Yeah.
much. I wouldn't recommend that.
Okay.
But over time, I started to inflect and go deeper and deeper into my own psyche and my own soul. And I went through a lot of hardships that built my character and allowed me to have the fortitude spiritually that I have today that grants me the space to be the person you perceive me as,
Yeah.
which is this friendly person who's
Right.
out there.
So is that
Yeah.
kind of when it happened for you? Like, you had the romances in high school, you had the army, you had parkour, but you're saying that the psychedelics really just flipped that switch to kind of make this happen? So is that like cherry on top?
Psychedelics and the choice to strive to be my highest self, because psychedelics they're a lens, they're a tool,
Uh-huh.
they're a bridge. But
So-
if you choose to never cross that bridge, or cross the bridge and say, oh, that's cool, and go right back,
Uh-huh.
you're not changing. If you look through this telescopic lens to this unveiled truth, and you say, huh, that's cool, like a sightseeing experience, and you just go back to the
Yeah.
way you lived, that's just all it'll ever be. But if you choose to use that change of perception to walk through the door, to be to unlock who you have the potential to be,
Uh-huh.
then you'll change. And it takes work to maintain that change, because it's all too easy to let
Yeah.
those experiences slip like a dream.
Right, and you're not used to that's not who you are at the moment, right? It's kind of like you're exposed to your higher self, but it's not who you are. You've just been exposed to like that lens you're saying. But from a neurological standpoint, like our habits are so ingrained into us that to actually become that higher self takes so much practice and intention, like you're saying, to actually stay there. But I want to ask so you're saying like the psychedelics kind of serve as a bridge to exposing you to your higher self and kind of getting you there, right? But some people like myself will probably never do psychedelics. Not that I'm opposed to them or anything. Like I have nothing against them. I'm just not super interested in trying it.
I hope that one day that changes. And if it ever does, let me know.
Hit me up. But my interest, though, my question to you is: you can use the psychedelics to go into that bridge into your higher self, but that can't be the only bridge, right?
No, there's psychedelics is, like I said, it's a tool,
Mhm.
but there's other tools out there. Experience
For sure,
and having
for
an
sure.
open heart is the best bridge you can ever build for yourself. And
Love that.
the only way you could do that is to go out and to experience things. Like
I was just talking about that last night, actually. I was like, push-ups is a good analogy. Is like you can talk about push-ups, you can read about push-ups, but until you actually do push-ups, your muscles won't get any stronger.
Yeah.
And so like to become your higher self or to become more friendly and social, like you can talk about it, you can read about it, but until you actually go do it, what you do on a regular, you're not going to get any stronger. So it's actually putting yourself out there.
Now here's the discrepancy between push-ups and being social and being open-hearted is thinking about it and visualizing it, reading about it and learning does actually help you become that higher self and that person. But knowledge, that can only take you so far without the action of doing it.
Right.
So, if you're just, say, let's go to the push-up analogy or metaphor. If you just go straight to doing push-ups, but you don't know how to do push-ups, like you didn't read up on the knowledge to do how to do the push-ups, then you could be doing it wrong.
Yeah, if you don't even know what a push-up is, then it's like,
how can you do it?
Good luck. You're right.
So, action without knowledge has the possibility of being greatness, but is likely to be reckless outcome.
Right.
But knowledge without action is just wisps in the wind.
Right.
It's nothing.
For sure.
So they need to dance together and they need to meet. And what I did was I took the understanding from the experiences I've had with the unveiled reality presented to me, merged them together to take steps to be who I am now, and am still stepping to be who I envision myself being, which is who you see, but with the leverage, the 3D world leverage to make the changes that I want to make and to make the influences that I want to make.
Right.
I've done it for myself. I'm doing it for myself. That job is never done.
Exactly. It's an infinite goal.
It's an infinite goal. It's an infinite series of milestones.
Right.
But I've made it far enough to where wonderful people like yourself are interested in knowing, what it is I'm all about.
Yeah, and especially because I would love to take your friendliness, like your outgoingness, put it into a bottle and sell it to people. Not sell it, just give it to them. Right? So a little bit about me.
I better be collecting royalties for that.
So a little bit about myself. I actually also had a kind of turning point where I wanted to be more social, more outgoing. I was definitely, until senior year of high school, I was definitely more on my own. I had always been more introverted, and I've always been a studier. So it was just kind of always like book and work. But at some point, I took on the leadership role in college, and I realized that I needed to be more social with people, more apt on how to work with people. So I actually read a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh, that's a good book.
Have you read it?
Is that by Carnegie?
Carnegie. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So have you read it?
I have not.
It's a fantastic book for anybody who has that desire to be more outgoing and can't really. It is more, maybe resonates a little bit more with me, where I can sit down, read a book, and put it into action. That book was for me what kind of allows me to be so friendly with you. Right, you're a friendly, outgoing person, but I imagine you've probably had interactions too where people don't reciprocate it.
Oh, I have a story for you after you finish your foundations, but I actually have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Out of that book, what are three main things from that book that changed your perspective to be who you are?
Okay, so from How to Win Friends and Influence People by Carnegie, number one that stuck with me was be a dog. We love dogs. Humans love dogs because dogs, when they see you, they get so excited to see you, and because they don't have an ego. And so they don't have to hide that they like you. They don't have to hide that they're fascinated by you. And so for me, I tell you, I'm fascinated with who you are, and then I see you, and if I'm in a good mood, I will always display that to people when I'm happy to see them. And that's why we love dogs, because they show us that they like us. And so for me, for the people that I love, this was particular for my family, is when my brothers would come home, when my mom would come home, I would make sure that I showed them that I was excited about it. right? I wouldn't stay in my room anymore like I used to before the book. I would make sure that I go out, said hi to them, asked them how they were doing, and then was just excited to see them, and I would display it too. I would let my actions demonstrate it. Make sense? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I try to be a dog. Number two, probably the first thing that comes to mind is how to handle discipline. Has helped me out a lot in teaching students. So there's a story where there's a manager of an office and there's two employees who are smoking outside and they're not supposed to be smoking outside. And so what he does, the manager, is instead of scolding them about it, is he goes outside and he takes out two cigarettes and he hands it to them and he says, "Hey, gentlemen, there's no smoking here." He's like, "Hey, here's these cigarettes for you, but also there's no smoking here. Save those for later." Right. So it's kind of like he could have gone out like some people do and just go and scold them and tell them what they're doing wrong. But instead, it was like, I have nothing against you smoking, but this is just not the time and place. But I even encourage your smoking. Probably back then it was like, very encouraged, cool thing to do.
Your doctor said it was good for you.
Even the doctor said it was good for you. So it's like, here's these as a gift for that. Like, I approve of what you're doing, just not here. So time and place and how to get students to understand time and place was really, really important for me. And then lastly, personas. So understanding that you can't be the same person everywhere, right? Like as a teacher, I can't act the same way that I act in the club. Right? I can't act the same way with my grandma that I do with my best friends. And so understanding that if you want to win friends and influence people, you can't always be yourself. And I think that's where being a teacher, I see some students who are unable to take on those roles of personas, and other students get annoyed by them. It's like, especially like from my classroom, I have a lot of respect from my students. And so when a student just can't seem to kind of like stop, the other students will ostracize. And like, I love that they do that because like it demonstrates they love me. But I feel bad for that student because it's like, guys, he's not trying to be a jerk or he's not trying to be annoying. He just hasn't developed a persona just yet on how to do that. And they're eighth graders, so they haven't really picked up on that yet. But those would be the three things that I
tell them that?
I tell them not in that type of way, but I let them know, hey, it's not the time and place. Like if you want to act like this outside of class, totally fine. Right? And especially like the play fighting, roughhousing to the boys.
Which is essential, but it's not just for the class. It's not the time and place in the classroom.
Right. It's like, do that. Go have fun. Like I'll do all that stuff. I genuinely don't care what my students do outside of school as long as they're being responsible about it. But my classroom is not the time and place. Right. I don't. And like for me, I don't cuss in my classroom. I don't. And I cuss regularly outside of school. And that's one thing they tell me all the time is when they cuss on accident, like, "Mr. But you cuss, not in school." Right. So that was a big thing for me that I think has helped me travel into the world a little easier, is understanding that I have to have personas in certain places.
Yeah, I think the proper response to that question from the students would be, what the fuck are you talking about?
Oh man, they would never let it go. They'd be like, "You cussed that one time 5 years ago in class." Therefore,
I pulling out like the book. Yeah, see, it says here on the date of X, Y, and Z that
you know what though?
Action.
My personas do slip every now and then, where it's like, I have cussed because I get either really excited or I just kind of forget, or I'm really comfortable. But I do
10-4, we got him.
We got him. But I do think there's such an importance to it, because the way that you navigate your world versus the way you navigate the world is so different. And I think people would be more successful in the world, right? The like, what is all this, if they could navigate personas a little better.
See, there's something that a friend shared with me. She said that one of the things she perceived me as was an authentic shapeshifter. She seen me take on 20 different personas, but I'm authentically myself in each one. And I think that part of that is from my ADHD, like just being scattered kind of everywhere. But, I can go and I could be in a room of millionaires and be just fine and accepted. I can be in a room of artists. I could be in a room of construction workers, veterans, ruffians, athletes, hunters,
musicians,
and in all of those, I'm authentically myself, and so I feel that persona, that ability to be very fluid in my persona, really helps out. And I think that some people put a negative connotation on that, like, oh, you're being fake, or you're doing code switching, you know. But I honestly see it as, it depends on your intent and if you're okay with it. If you are okay with shape shifting and you could still be your authentic self, then that's a fucking skill. That's
a skill.
That's an asset.
It's very much a skill.
Not a liability.
And when I have had that conversation with classes, I tell them is like, you can switch your personas, which really just means you're switching the things that, certain things you do and certain things you don't do, but you should always be kind, and you should always be understanding, and you should always be compassionate, right? No matter where you're at, that is a universal, regardless of where you are in the world, what country, what setting, that is a universal thing that everybody loves, kind people. And so that's where I see, like you say, I'm being my authentic self, is you're just being that kind person. You might have to use certain different vocabulary with this group or different vocabulary with that group, but kindness is accepted everywhere.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool. You said you had a story you wanted to share.
Oh,
Because you're super friendly, right? So, like with me, you first literally had known you for 2 hours. You gave me a super big hug, 2 deep breaths and everything, right? Just super, super friendly. I imagine not everybody always reciprocates that.
Oh, dude, I have a story for you, man.
Tell me.
Basically, this story involves me being really friendly with someone, and they're like, dude, get the fuck away from me. Like, okay, so this was when I was looking for apartments.
Okay.
I go and I talk to one of the, the people that live in the apartments. They were nice. I was like, okay, cool. I was just trying to get an idea. So I was just asking some questions like, hey, what's it like here? I go to one of the open studios, and the neighbor is outside.
Okay.
And I'm like, hey man, how's it going? You know,
right.
just
doing regular Desheay things.
Doing regular Desheay things. And he's like, whoa, I am not interested. And I was like, whoa, hey, I'm just I could be your neighbor, man. I'm just trying to figure out kind of what it's like. And he's like, move along, okay? I don't know who the fuck you are. Go.
Yeah.
I was like, dang. All right, man.
Right, from the
get-go. And I was like, I was just shocked because nobody really like treats me like that. And so I was like, well, hey, I hope you have a good one. He's like, go, move along.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, man, this guy's really
You're going through something.
Really doesn't fuck with me.
No, but I really think that when people are dicks like that, I try to be empathetic. It's like they're going through something.
I was like, you know what? I'm not going to take it
personally.
Yeah,
what'd you do? Did you just leave? Or?
Yeah, I went to the property manager and I asked her questions, and then and I got everything I needed to know. But what's funny is when I did end up moving into that unit next to him. Next to him. And I was like, fuck, man, I hope that this isn't like a awful neighbor interaction, like just indefinitely. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to let it go. And I saw him again. I was like, hey, how's it going, man? And he was like, look, man, I'm sorry about that first interaction.
Right.
I don't know who you are. People walk through here. I have no idea. So, just tell you to move along.
But he apologized.
And I was like, hey, it's all good, man.
Yeah.
And then we're good now. We're not friends.
Right.
But,
But is that really somebody you would even want to be friends with?
Yeah, I see him and I'm like, hey, how's it going? And I.
Oh, so this is still your neighbor now?
Still my neighbor now, and
gotcha.
I say hi, and we're courteous with each other.
Right, respectful.
Something I see he loves is his one wheel. He fucking loves his one wheel. It's like an electric.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's like those things that go. Like he looks so happy, so I just bring him good vibes. And I'm like, hey, you look like you had a great ride today. And I just relate with him on that.
He's just kind of like, fuck off.
No, he's like, yeah, today was a great ride.
Okay,
like,
so you're getting a little more friendly.
I find things that are important to people, and I just highlight those things.
For sure.
And just like, hey, I see this thing's really important to you, and I'm happy for you. And,
that is such a good thing to do. Like, that's how you make people feel understood, feel like they're felt. Because it's like, I'm recognizing you for you. Yeah. That's awesome that you're doing that for him. Hopefully, and lighten him up a little bit.
Yeah, now we're chill, I compliment him on his cool shirts because he usually has like a cool like Hawaiian shirt. And I just like all that stuff that happened, I let it go. I didn't take it personal. One of the biggest things for me was to learn how to not take things personally.
Right. But I was gonna say like he rejected you right away, but he doesn't even know you. So you can't take it personally. Like what about your person does he know? Nothing.
Yeah.
But that was a big change for you, like into becoming this person who's so outgoing, was not taking things personal.
Not taking these personally.
What did that mean for you? Like, how would you take things personal?
Um, I think I just dealt with a lot of like, you're doing this wrong. You're a bad kid when I was younger, and so I internalized all that. And it was like, man, I'm not a good person. I'm not a good quality person. But over time, I realized, through being able to step outside of myself, that everybody's going through their own shit.
Yep.
Everybody projects in their own ways.
Facts.
And a lot of times people will reflect. People put a projection, but everything after that is a reflection if they're conscious enough. And
explain that a little more.
So people can project their initial vibe onto you, but once you're
like if they're in a bad mood, they're going to put that on you.
They're going to project.
Uh-huh.
But once they're in a space with someone, they're in a shared space, everything's a reflection. If they're conscious enough. So if they're not conscious and they're just projecting, chances are they're not going to have any people that are going to want to spend some time with them.
Right.
But if they're conscious enough, then they may project. But as another human being, if you're conscious enough, you act like a mirror and you reflect. You can absorb, and that might take a lot of energy out of you. But if you choose to be if you absorb and reflect out positivity, then there's a good chance that person will turn from a projector to a reflector, and then it becomes a positive feedback.
I see what you're saying. So it's like when I meet you, if I'm in a bad mood and I project that onto you, right, this energy, but you absorb it, and instead you choose to give me good energy.
I choose to reflect good energy.
Then I'm going to reflect that same thing back.
Yeah.
Now in that shared
Possibly.
space. We hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But, if that takes the other person making the choice to be an absorber and a mirror. Like if I'm just a mirror, then I'm going to reflect bad energy. But
right, you're just going to dish it right back to me.
Dish it right back. But the 1-2 of a sponge and mirror, like that's a powerful combination, because I could take in that energy as a sponge, squish it out, let it go, and be that positive mirror. So when someone looks, I'm trying to show someone the best version of themselves and interact with that, and then we build that with each other, and then it's good vibes.
For sure. Yeah. I think that you have a lot to give to the world. I hope that you continue to put your message out there and just be yourself, and hopefully people will see that and just want to imitate that, because I love it.
And I hope so too, man. I hope so too. And also don't be completely don't be fooled by the perception. Like I'm just a human being. When I'm by myself, I still have a proclivity towards like quick flash anger, especially if technology's involved, man.
You don't like technology or what?
Dude, I have the shortest fucking fuse when it comes to. There's one thing.
I have a feeling.
There's one thing that will piss me off every fucking time.
What is it?
Automated answers, automated calls. Like I call and it's like, "Hi, you have reached the help desk of. Would you like option 1, 2?" And I'm like, dude.
I feel like I connect with you on that, because I said one time, I was like, I hate inanimate objects. Right? Because I can't have any influence on it.
I accidentally kicked that.
You're good. I hate inanimate objects because you can't have any influence on inanimate objects. Right? It's like, and automated voice messages, you can't have any influence on it. You have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas like a person, you can hopefully reflect and all that stuff, but inanimate objects, you have no choice.
Yeah, it's just like it's the quickest way to get me absolutely.
Oh yeah, I think that's so important.
Time.
I love that you're honest about that, because it's like, we do have our outside personas, the people that we present to the world, and then we have our private personas, and our private personas are not as pretty. Nobody's private persona is as pretty as their public persona, because we understand that if we are a certain type of way outside in public, we're not going to be like
people aren't going to fuck with you.
Right? Yeah, they're not going to fuck with you. So our private personas is where we really are ourselves, and I really believe that, and I tell this to myself, is like the person I am in private is the person I really am. Right? It's like I can put out this public persona and people will like me and be like, Angel this or Valentine that, but my private persona, the person that I am when nobody's looking, that's who I truly am. And so that's really who I try to work on, is that private persona the most.
Same here. I try to work on being kinder to myself. Like in those moments, the person I'm most cruel to is myself. I'm really kind to everybody, even if they're an asshole. But if anything, I'm the cruelest to myself, and I am working on that. Anytime I'm in a downward spiral, and this is advice I would give, you know, to anybody out there, like in those moments where it's like, where you're so upset, just, it sounds so generic, but taking a breath, and, you know, being like, you know, this is gonna pass. I'm only human. I make mistakes. This is not the end. Just taking a moment to breathe and reflect on what you're grateful for. It's really hard to be in a state of resentment and anger when you're actively being grateful for something. And it's hard sometimes, but it's a practice. Like,
it's hard.
I'm grateful for my breath. I'm grateful for the fact that I can see. I'm grateful for the friends that I've made. I'm grateful that I was able to stop and be grateful.
Yeah, and if I could add something to that too, is like, because I practice that as well, where it's like stop, slow down. Yeah. But I also, if it's you have those reactive feelings, but sometimes you have feelings that kind of linger a little more. For me, the advice I give to myself is like, accept those feelings. Like, you are angry, be angry. Don't project it onto anybody, but be angry. You're sad, be sad. Because I think as intelligent as we are, we try to be a little too intelligent, and we forget that at the end of the day, we're really animals. And so like, there's a lot of ourselves that we can't control. So it's like, what you resist persists. And so when I do feel those lingering feelings, I'm like, just accept it. Be angry for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, feel sad for 2 days, but keep moving afterwards and never project it onto anybody.
And don't listen to the voice that says, be sad for 6 months.
Right. On God. All right, man. Well, for time's sake, that's all the time we have for today. But it was an absolute pleasure, Desheay, and yeah, I look forward to continuing to talk to you.
We're going to capture this on camera. Come bring it in.
Oh my God, this is good. I can't breathe, my allergies.
Hold on, I got to move the rings back.
Bring
it in. Let's take a deep allergy breath.
Thank you.
That's how you do it.
You can probably hear my heart beating on the microphone.
And that's all for today's episode.